I'm going to do a walkthrough of the things that I did to create this Nintendo Switch 2 um, dock. I I don't know how to 3D model, but I'm fairly savvy with the Bambu Studio Slicer software. And this dock was created from two other designs that others have made. The first piece is the dock that the actual switch is in, kind of this piece back here that holds that switch's actual dock steady in place. And that included the background with that model. And then the other model is this one here in the front, this scene of Mario sleeping or daydreaming, taking a rest with coins around him in the pipe and the bush on top of the classic Mario blocks. This is a model that I found when I initially got my 3D printer about 6 months ago and fell in love with it and have wanted a reason to print it. And this seemed like the perfect thing, combining it with kind of a dock for the Switch. And this scene is originally intended to be a, a pencil pen holder where you just set them in the tube here. My wife suggested that would make a great place to put the TV remote, so that's probably what we'll do. Um, but anyways, I'll include links to the files that I use. This first one is from Big Over Easy. Just in the Bambu software, I downloaded it like normal. The other model that I used was this one here. Again, I just downloaded the file in Bambu Studio. So this is the one of the Mario scene. It doesn't require an AMS, so you can print each piece, the colors individually, and then glue them all together, which is what I did. And then this is the other file of the actual Switch dock. So you can see this is the section where the Switch would sit. This actually came with two different models for the dock, or structures, I guess. The first one here is where you could print it and it just has this Switch 2 logo as kind of the backdrop for the dock, and then an area where you can print all these other little pieces and create your scene there. But this one here, this is the one I used. And the reason I use that one is because it has like this section where you can insert your own backdrop. So they've got that piece, and then they've got a backdrop here that's got some indentations for clouds that you can put inside of it. I only put one cloud in the corner because the scene that I'm actually going to use would be blocking these other clouds. But since this print here only uses a few pieces that I actually want, I'm going to use the pencil holder model to actually do my setup. So I'm going to click this button to add one more plate, and then I'm going to import the other project. So if you go to File, Import, and we can import our Bambu files. Let's see if I sort my list by the recent ones. So I believe this one is the Switch dock. So let's open that. And I already have a project open, so I just want the geometry, the actual models. So we'll click OK. And then here's all the pieces from that other design. So I already know I don't want these, so I'm just going to shift, click and drag to select those models and just delete them right away. I opted to use the insertable background so I could print a different color and add a scene to it. So I'm going to delete this other stand that I don't need. Not going to need these question marks or that piranha plant. But those clouds might be useful for adding to the scene later. So this dock is really the model piece that I'm after. When I was working on this, I kind of like it facing the other way. So I'm going to go to this rotate tool and just rotate it so that it's facing the other way. Yeah, okay, that's how I like it. So this model, we already know it's set to be the right size to fit your actual Switch dock in the back. So this model should be basically ready to go. It's the right size. If I want to insert that piece that will be like the backdrop, I already know that this is sized correctly for it. So really this is good to go. I just want to be able to add the pencil holder sleeping Mario model to the front area here. So one of the main things I did was that means I need this here. This is the, if you remember, this is the set of bricks that Mario's going to sleep on, and the tube is on the right hand side. So again, since this model is facing me, I also need to spin that piece around. So we'll just spin it around. Okay. And when you're spinning this, if you hold your mouse on the inside of the circle, it will snap to these different degree angles. So if you're rotating something and you want to make sure that it's 180 degrees spun around just right, make sure you do that so it'll snap to that properly. That's what I did when I rotated the base. So now I know that they should line up just right. So this part here was a little bit tricky. Let's see. Basically, we're going to want to align this brick so that it lines up just right with this little thing sticking up here, because we want this gap to be the same size, regardless of what scene we've got in front here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to click the top so I can see this from kind of the top down side. Is I want this Mario pencil holder. Oh, whoops! I just realized I didn't need to spin that. That was already on the right side. There we go. I want the size of this to be the exact same size as the plate. So widthwise, I'm going to align this left side here perfectly with the plate. Let me make sure. There's two different view types, perspective view and orthogonal view. Perspective makes things look in perspective with your eyes. So you can see that as I move this way, that the edges of these don't quite line up, because this item that's on top, that's just the way vision works. Is the things that are closer to you kind of move with a greater degree. So I'm going to set this to orthogonal view, and that will make sure that no matter how I'm looking at it, the pieces line up perfectly, geometrically speaking. So that is set up, and that looks pretty good. I don't know that there's an ideal way to get it just perfect. I can kind of see the red through these little gaps. So I don't know, it could be a little bigger. So I'm just going to extend it out a little further, and that looks fine to me. I want to now extend this other side. So we'll use the scale tool here, and I'll grab the corner here and just pull it until it's just right on this side. Oh, that scaled the whole thing. So let's do object coordinates and realign this edge here. That's still going to scale it that way. Well, I think there's a good way to do this, but I don't know it off the top of my head. So I'm just going to kind of scale and move a little bit till I get it kind of what seems right to me. Okay. And that looks good enough. So I can see kind of this little edge right here is lined up pretty well with the red side there. Same thing on the other side. It's lined up pretty well. So now what I need to do is we need to get this lined up just right on the side here. So again, we want this gap to be the same size. So I'm just going to grab this and kind of inch it forward. I want to make sure that I have a perfect view of this right side. So I'll click this right square here. It'll line it up just right. And I'll just slowly inch it, maybe zoom in a little bit, and get it just right. And this, if it's not just perfectly perfect, I think it'll still be okay. So I can see maybe there, you probably can't even see it on the recording. There's like a hair of red there, but that's going to be fine. That's pretty well aligned. Excuse me. Okay. So now something you might want to do, you notice that that red part of the base is coming through. And when that prints, that might look a little bit ugly. So what we're going to do is I am going to select the red piece here, and I'm going to use this cut tool. And what this cut tool does is it lets you literally cut or slice an object. So right now it's set to cut, like if I were to do the perform cut, it would cut this blue part, this top half of the model off. But I want to cut just this base area here off. So I'm going to grab this red tool and rotate the orientation, the plane that the cutter is on. And I want it to be vertical. So we'll set it to vertical. And then we'll look to the side here. I'll grab this yellow cube that'll let me move it. And I'll move it so it's just right, kind of right on the edge there. And that's good enough for me. So I'll do perform cut. That will have cut this into pieces. So this here is the piece that I don't want. This is that front tray area. But this here is the actual dock. And I'm not sure why it rotated it like that. That's kind of weird. But let's rotate it back down so it's sitting properly. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to have to line these back up. So I'll just scoot that over there. Oh dear. And we'll line that right up again. So there is this funny little gap here, but that, I don't know, that really doesn't bother me. But you can keep trimming and scaling the pieces so that they look just how you want. So now, yeah, now were we to print this, this would really just turn out, this is basically what we want, is we've got the base for the model that we actually want, the scene. There's enough gap here to put in the background plate, and we've got just the right size for the switch dock back there. So really, we're mostly done from here. So the next thing that we need to do is make sure, since we scaled the size of this front plate, we need to make sure that we scale all the other pieces that are going to be a part of it. So once you've got this sized properly, just select the object again, that front brick floor, click the scale tool, and here you can see exactly how much we've scaled it. So 123.24%. So I'm just going to copy that value. And for all the other pieces that are part of the Mario, you want to make sure that this uniform scale is checked. It should be by default. But we're going to click all the different pieces and make sure that they are scaled to that same size. So click here. We'll scale that. And if you do it to one, it should do it to all. So we scale the tube, the base for the tube, set that, make them all the right size. I haven't tried this, but let's see if we can just select everything and do it all at once. So if I hold shift and drag, select all those pieces, scale, set that in there, and you can see, yep, they all scaled up just how we want. But now we gotta make sure that they are still on their plates. All right. So the other thing we'll want to do is we'll want to, I wanted to make a change to this. So I didn't need all the clouds, but I also didn't want these weird indentations here. And what I ultimately ended up doing was I didn't use the indentation at all. I just made this whole surface flat. And then I just printed these out and just glued it kind of wherever I wanted. So to fill in that gap, if that's important to you, the way you can do that is select the model that you've got, and let's check the size of this model. So if we look at the Z, that is how high, how tall it is, 3 millimeters. So we need some other 3 millimeter object that we can use to fill that in. So if you right click on the plate, you can go to add primitive. And for this, we'll just use, let's see, a rounded rectangle. So I'm going to use this to basically fill in that area. And the one dimension I know is that I need this square to be 3 millimeters high, but I am going to also want to stretch it wide to fill in all the areas. So if I uncheck uniform scale, I can now set this to 3 millimeters high, and it shrinks it down just to the right size. So now I want to move this around so that I can cover all the clouds. So if you just move it and kind of adjust it, make sure you're covering, oops. Let's see, make sure we get the length of those clouds. That looks about right. So drag it down. Make sure we got them covered. This needs to be a little taller. So just kind of adjust it little by little. Oops. Needs to be a little taller. Drag it, move it down. Okay, I think we've got all those empty areas filled in, and also be careful that the corners of the piece you're using to fill doesn't stick outside the actual scene backdrop. So I think I accidentally changed the scale, but this was 3 millimeters high, so let's make sure that's there. Okay, and it's filled in. Now, another handy thing you might want to do to make sure that these don't get separated is, again, I'm holding shift, clicking and dragging to select both pieces. I can see they're selected here. Right click and merge, and that will hold them together. So now I can just click this one object, move it around. If we slice this plate, we can see that for each layer that's printed, there's no gap. Like it's totally filled in, just a flat backdrop. And with that, that's really all you need to know. I'm going to show a few other settings I tweaked to help make sure that my print looked nice. But as far as getting the scene you wanted attached to a dock, that's basically it. We're just moving things, scaling them, and slicing them a little bit, and tweaking them till we get all the pieces just where we want. In fact, let's slice this one too, just to make sure it looks how we want. Oh, except these are different colors. Let me set these both so to the same color. So shift, click and drag. Let's make both of these. I think the color that I used was actually a bamboo matte, and it was terracotta was the color. So it's kind of a reddish brown. Yep, terracotta. Click OK. Now if I right click this, let's see, I don't know if I can do both selected together, but if I click them one at a time and double tap the number 11, so I'm just tapping one really quick, it's setting those to the color. Okay, now they're the right color. Let's see what this looks like when it's sliced. Okay, and as we go down, yeah, we can see it's printing all as one object. It looks pretty good. There is this serious warning. Conflicts of G-code paths have been found at layer 41. Okay, so this is relates to a problem when you have two models that are kind of overlapping. Like it's trying to, probably along right here, it's trying to draw the wall for the dock model, and it's trying to draw a wall for the brick model, and it kind of doesn't know how to resolve that very well. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to join these two items. Again, select both of them. Then we have this mesh Boolean tool. So if I click this, I want to do union. And what that's going to do is it's going to take both these models. So I'm going to, again, in this little drop down, select both of them. And I'm going to click execute. And what it did is it turned this piece into a single model. So now if we go to slice it, it's not giving us that warning again. The slice is okay. And it looks pretty good. All right. So one other thing that I did to make sure that my print was nice and clean was when this is actually printed, I want this top layer here to be ultra smooth. So if you go look at the pictures that I have here, you can see that surface. That surface is pretty nice. Like it's not rough, it's not bumpy. And if you touch it, it just feels nice and buttery smooth. And that's what we want. So I use to do this all the time an ironing setting. And let's see, looking at all the pieces, I'm just going to turn this on globally. So this will automatically be applied to any top flat surfaces across any of these plates here. So if we go to global, under the quality settings, scroll down to ironing, I'm going to turn top surfaces. So the difference, topmost surface means that for an object or a plate, what it's going to do is it's going to make only the highest flat surface smooth. So in this case, like for this pipe, it would make this area smooth, but it wouldn't apply ironing to this other flat surface. So what I select is top surfaces. So any top surface that's flat is going to have this ironing applied to it. And the settings that I use almost all the time and gave me great results for this is I set the speed from 30 down to 25 and the ironing flow to 30. And that will give you a really nice flat surface. So you'll want a flat surface probably on your brick plate here. On this backdrop, you'll want that to be nice and smooth, so it'll apply it there. And this will also apply it to the coins. And then the pipe also. So the pipe, so this was interesting because the top of the pipe is actually down. And if you're like me, where you usually use a textured plate, that means the top of your pipe is going to be textured. So what I did for this was I can't remember. I either used a smooth plate to make sure that would be smooth, but alternatively, you can just rotate your pipe to make sure that this top layer here will be nice and smooth. And you will have some slight overhangs here, so you'll probably also want to make sure that supports are turned on. Let's just check that real quick. Yep, so it'll apply a few supports around there to help make sure that that overhang stays nice and clean. I think then there was just one, let's see, one last trick that I did to make sure that my print came out super nice. So the one thing I apply this to almost every print I do. And you'll notice looking at this is a pretty big up close image, but the layer lines look pretty nice. Sometimes you can see on prints the layer lines are just super thick and stacked and don't look nice. But this turned out pretty well. And the setting that I use to help with that, again, a setting I use almost all the time, is when I select a model, there's this tool up here called variable layer height. And when you print, every layer is going to be a different thickness. So as it stands right now, this is going to do a 0.16 millimeter height for each layer line. And you can see that like that's going to create kind of these plateaus along the top here. On the right hand side here, you can see that every layer, this is showing me a graph of what every single layer look like. They'll all be 0.16 millimeters. But if I use this tool here and I click this adaptive button, what it's going to do is it's going to find all the areas that kind of have a peak to them. So kind of here, the top of the hat, the top of the bill as it prints. Some of these green layer lines here, there's either some ridges kind of here that it's trying to compensate for, or maybe something internal. But the green area is showing you areas that it has adaptively made the layer height smaller. So these are going to be smaller layers, so they're going to be harder to see, which is important when you have a curved surface like this. You also notice that there's kind of a pretty stark difference. Like it cuts from green to white, from red to green really quick. And you can see in the graph here that there's those pretty big jumps between layers. So another button I also click is I'll usually click smooth, and that will kind of make it a little softer. Because if there are big jumps between layer heights in your model, those can be perceptible too, seeing really thin lines right next to really thick lines. So this is a trick I apply to really help soften my models that have a lot of curves to them and make them just look nicer. It probably will increase the print time, but I don't know. To me, it's worth it. You'll notice that so this black line here was the default 0.16 millimeter height that we have set for everything. So some layers actually will print thicker than that default, just because for that particular area there's not much curvature and it doesn't really matter. So even though the green thinner areas will be slower, we've also made a few other layers faster. So it might turn out a little more balanced time-wise that way. So the problem though, if you have, so this plate here is for all the red pieces. If you set one piece to print with variable layer heights, it can't quite compensate because these ones here are still, they're the same layer height everywhere. And when it's printing, it needs every single layer it does for all pieces need to be identical. So if I try to slice this, it's probably going to give me an error. Oh, maybe not. Layer height. Huh. So I've had issues in the past where when I tried to set them all to different heights, the it kind of has a problem where it just can't do it all. So let me try. This is Mario's arm. So let's do the same thing we did to this. Maybe now if we slice it. Huh, well, maybe it's going to do exactly what we want. Well, if you can swap all the layers to these and they seem to work fine with the variable layer height, then yeah, I guess you're good to go. But the times that it does tell me that it's not going to do that, what I'll do is I will switch my process tab to objects and I will select the plate and then I'll do print sequence. I'll do it instead of by layer, I'll do it by object, assuming that every layer is going to be a different height per object. Again, that's what usually throws me a problem. What I'll do is I'll just set it to by object. And what that will do, I'll show you here. So I'll click this auto arrange so it will space them all kind of where they need to be. I'll slice the plate. And we'll see that as you go down the layers, you can see it's only printing the hat in this upper corner. So instead of doing all the layers for all pieces, it's going to print one whole piece. Then it'll start on the next piece and so forth. It does each piece individually. And this will compensate if it has problems where it says, hey, all these are different layer heights. We need to, we can't quite do that. Just go to objects, select the plate, tell it to by object, and then have it auto arrange the objects. If you have too many objects, sometimes it won't work. You'll have to separate it into more plates, but this is a good option if you need to print one color for multiple things on the same plate and you have collision issues. So I just kind of want to experiment here. Let me set all of these to, we'll apply this adaptive setting, adaptive, smooth. And I think I already did it to this. Nope, adaptive, smooth that out. Adaptive, smooth. Okay, I think it was this arm that I already did. Okay. And let's see if it'll do it by layer. All right, yeah, I guess it's good. So anyways, that is all I did to prepare this, merge these two models was, again, mostly the base, the brick base that Sleeping Mario sits on, merged, basically lined up just right with the switch dock. You'll also notice that merging those, I honestly don't know what this is about, non-manifold edges. It has something to do with the geometry of the objects when we merged them, that there's some gaps or something missing. I've printed plenty of items that have this error and it prints just fine, but if you want to clean it up, you can, they have a link to a site where you can go. Let me just bring that up. Free online repair. So it'll give you an option to upload the STL file that's being problematic, and it will process it and let you download it. So to do that, you just select the piece you want, go to File, Export, and can't quite remember. All object as one STL, all objects as STLs. Export plate as sliced file. So I think this one, we don't want all the objects together as one STL file, but we just want this one piece here. So I think this is what I've done is I've exported this. It does generate a STL file for all these. So if I actually wanted to do that, I think what I do is I just delete all these. File, export all object as STLs. We'll just export it there. And then I can upload it. And then once I've done it for just this one file, then I can Command Z, Control Z to undo and restore all the pieces. Yeah, so anyways, I hope you learned something and good luck printing your Mario Switch dock. Thanks.